Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome into Morning in the Valley. I am Jeff Bidwell. It is July the 18th. Glad you are joining us today here as we've hit the dog days of summer. Most certainly, we will talk with Southern Illinois women's basketball coach Kelly Bond White coming up in just a couple of minutes. Got a chance to talk with her Wednesday afternoon. Recorded that conversation. This is a bit of a schedule conflict for her program as they do their practices during this hour. So during the summer. So we got a chance to catch up with her the other day, and a frustrating, difficult, injury-prone season last year. The Salukis winning just 4 games, and as they go in now to year 4 of the Kelly Bond White era, it was a little bit of a reset this summer, and we talked all about that and what is to come for that Saluki team. So we'll talk with her coming up here in about 10 minutes. Programming note, this will be our last program until next Friday. We will be off on Monday and Wednesday. It's a little bit of a summer vacation time for the family. And if I took the time to break away from that to talk to all you people, it might be the last family vacation of my living, breathing life. So we will just take a couple days off. We'll be back next Friday and rocking and rolling with you. If you haven't done so already, please head over to YouTube and subscribe to the program. Search out Morning in the Valley, subscribe to it, like it, share it, talk about it, comment, engage with it. It helps get into that algorithm and so on, but helps us continue to grow. And the numbers continue to grow every week. And certainly could not have done any of that without all of you. So very much appreciate all of your support. All right, headlines of the morning. And I feel like we have shifted our are we talking that or are we talking about that again conversation from the House settlement now to NCAA tournament expansion. As a week ago, I guess it was, the NCAA basketball committees, both the men's and women's side, voted to take no action on NCAA tournament expansion for the 2026 season. Doesn't mean they said, no, we're not doing it. They just said, let's just push it to the side and we will revisit it at a later time. Again, whether that pushes from 68 to 72 or 68 all the way up to 76. Now, the challenge about this tabling it for now is that in terms of trying to get it ready for 2026 is that it is going to be a logistical challenge to get this tournament up and running and to I guess accommodate the brackets, accommodate all the extra needs from a television standpoint and so on. If you go 72 might be okay because that's 4 more teams. And ultimately that would be, that's 2 more games, I guess, that you could add into Dayton, that you could work into things. That the first 4 kind of becomes the first 8, and so that's possible. Going to 76, now you've got a situation. And certainly from a logistical standpoint, how it's all going to work, you have to expand to other first 4 sites other than just Dayton. There are a whole lot more moving parts in all of that. But for now, we stay at 68. Yesterday, Kevin Sweeney from Sports Illustrated did the legwork that I probably should have done a week ago, and ultimately just glad he did it and saved me all the trouble. About going about, okay, if the tournament did expand, what sort of impact would that have on who gets in as much as anything? And from a standpoint of the Missouri Valley Conference, Commissioner Jeff Jackson has said he is in favor of it. He believes it will potentially open the door, at least give a better opportunity for the Missouri Valley in this current landscape to be able to become a multi-bid league again. Because again, you look at last year, the SEC put in 14 teams. There are 37 at-large bids. And between the SEC, the Big Ten, and the Big East, that was 26 of your 37 at-larges. That doesn't count what the ACC put in. That doesn't count what the Big 12 put in. And so, I mean, the amount of at-large bids is just shrinking by the day. You're starting to get now, there is more. I hesitate to call the Pac-12 is rising from the ashes again. I don't even know if it's going to end up at 12. I believe it will, but we don't bring facts here. That don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. But either way, I mean that is sort of this. Hey, we've got some West Coast Conference teams, we've got some Mountain West teams. It's so I don't know if it's going to be considered a power league like it once was, but those are leagues that are going to be able to start plucking away and trying to at some of these at-large bids. So what Kevin did was he said, okay, just looking at what we had, if we go back and take the last 4 tournaments, which kind of just gets us out of COVID, and just 22, 23, 24, 25. If we expanded the tournament from 68 to 72, and in this argument, he knows exactly who the 72 would be because, according to the NCAA, those are the first 4 out teams. And those first 4 out teams are we know exactly who they are because they're the number 1 seeds in the NIT. So we there's no discussion about those. If the tournament the last 4 years had not been 68, but it had been 72, the Missouri Valley Conference would have been a multi-bid league one time, and that was in 2024 when Indiana State was obviously one of the first 4 teams out. Since 2022, of those 6, again, if the tournament was a 72-team tournament, those 16 extra teams that got in because it was now 72, only 4 of those 16 would have been non-power schools. Hard to call all of them mid-majors, but technically, I guess you could. Boise State in 2025, Indiana State in 24, and then Dayton and SMU back in 2022. Now, SMU is obviously going on to the ACC. Boise, I believe, going to the new Pac-12. So what was is not necessarily the way it is moving into the future. If you expand the tournament out to 76 teams in the last 4 years, the Missouri Valley Conference would have been a multi-bid league one time. And that was in 2024, thanks to Indiana State. So what you're seeing is a situation that the league just has not, frankly, been good enough to provide multi-bids. And that's a problem that is being worked on to try to get back to. And we'll get to that in a moment. Now, while that 69 to 72 window, only 4 of the 16 went to non-power schools. The 73 to 76 window, that was 8 of 16 non-power schools. So over the last 4 years, in totality, if we were a 76-team tournament the last 4 years, there would have been 12 out of those 32 spots would have been given to mid-majors. Basically 3 a year. And that is the argument from the non-power schools of like, let us in. And the part that I think what it does from especially that 73 to 76 window, stretching it out to 8 more teams a year, is it protects the teams that just win an unbelievable amount of games. But for whatever reason, the computers don't like them. And for instance, Drake, 31 wins last year. They would have been an absolute borderline at-large team last season if they had lost at some point in the Missouri Valley tournament, if they lose to Bradley on Sunday in St. Louis. But this would have protected them. They would have been in. Just last year, UC Irvine, a team that I believe went to the championship game in the NIT. They were a second 4 team out, but they were 28-6 in the regular season. And they would have been in. And that's a really good basketball team that would have been able to get into the tournament. Princeton in 2024, 24-4. They lose in the first round, I believe, of the Ivy League tournament. They don't get in. So you're going to open the doors for almost those next tier of teams that, again, the metrics don't like them, but they can get in. Now, it's also going to open the door, and there was one example that Kevin Sweeney put together. Again, the first 4 out were the groups to 72. The 73 to 76s were the schools. He took the average of the resume metrics, and that's how he put those together. And in some of those, I think it was 2023, like Oklahoma was 15-17 overall, and they were in using this exercise. Now, is the tournament committee going to ultimately kick those sub 500 teams to the curb as they should from the power leagues. That will remain to be seen if we ever get to that point. But it's opening the door. There's going to be, we're going to get some, UC Irvines. We're going to get some Princetons that won, close to 30 games. Something dumb happened in their conference tournament, and now they don't think they're going to be in from a traditional one bid league. But you're also going to get these 17 and 15 Ohio States or 15 and 17 Oklahomas and stuff like that. And that's going to have to be the trade-off for some people I don't know that I like what I'm seeing, but that's ultimately going to be it. The Valley in the end, the last 4 years just has not been good enough from top to bottom. And we talked with Rocco Miller, who is dialed into this NCAA tournament committee selection process as anybody a couple of months ago. And the one thing he said was it's sometimes easier to improve the bottom than trying to make the top better. And part of that was Missouri State leaving and going to Conference USA. And look, they were an albatross around everybody's ankle last year. That didn't matter what you did. They hurt the league last year from a metric standpoint. Now, were we going to expect them to be 280, whatever they ended up being? Probably not. But to remove that almost just is a rising tide for everybody else in the league. And that is, what you hope now with 11 teams. Maybe, it's one less team toward the bottom that everybody has to play. Scheduling, as we've talked about in the past, it has to improve, but it's not only, and I think I've come around a little bit on this, and it's going to take the games happening and the computer numbers to be crunched to really dial in on this through the season. And I went through the exercise a month ago about, look, strength of schedule has been bad overall. And when it's been good, we've gotten teams in. And yes, that's a part of it. But I think there are ways that you will see these teams schedule in the Valley this year and are trying to schedule that strength of schedule may not be great, yet they are scheduling better in the ironic statement of the day, in just the fact that, and certainly with my ties with Murray State and the conversations we've had with Ryan Miller about it, the new head coach there, is that they are trying to balance their schedule out with playing the best teams they can get, but also playing essentially the worst teams they can get. Because yes, you want to play good. The high majors don't want to play it. That's fine. Let's play that next tier, the really good mid majors. Let's get matched up with them, do home and homes, whatever we have to do, play them on neutral sites, whatever you have to do. But the rest of your schedule needs to be filled at as best as possible with the bottom 50 teams in the country. And then you have to take care of your business and go hammer them, just like the big boys do when they have those bye games as well, because in the end, that will float your metrics up. And so that's why the strength of schedule number may not look great, and yet your net is better than expected looking at the strength of schedule because you have gone out and blasted people. And that is just, it's part of the game. Not a part. You would think winning's enough. It's not. It's how much do you win by? And that is the part that schools in the Valley that have the wherewithal and the skill set to be able to go blast people need to be able to blast people. That's it. They have to be able to win by a lot to be able to float the metrics. Now, you're going to get to the end and you're going to be like, hey, our net is 30, but our strength of schedule is 305. Well, it's going to be held against you because that's just the way it is. The committee has shown that it's like when Ty goes to the runner, Ty's going to go to the big boy because, well, they played a much tougher schedule than whatever mid-major school may be. So, yes, expansion will help. Yes, expansion will help open the door, but expansion is not providing a guaranteed point of entry for multi-bids in this league. It's just not. You have to get the games, and then you have to win the games. And that is something that I feel like schools are doing a good job so far this summer. In not a ton of high major opportunities, especially with the MTE world sort of falling in on itself and the big boys just going and playing themselves and the Players Era Festival and so on, but making the best that you can out of your MTE experiences. And you may not be able to get top 25, top 50 opponents, but play those opponents that are about the 100 range. Those will help. Rather than playing the 200s, which don't do you any good whatsoever. So quad 3 games bad. Go play those quad 1 and quad 2s wherever you can get them, and go play those quad 4s and blast them, and the bad quad 4s. And hopefully that will be enough to be able to get multi teams into the tournament. But again, At this point, no action taken on 72 or 76. Don't know that it's going to happen for 26, but certainly keep your eyes peeled that it is coming sooner than later, that we will be out of the world of 68. And it's just going to be a matter of how much more and how much bigger they opt to go. In terms of scheduling, we do have Rocco Miller, speaking of, has gotten a couple more games confirmed. And the Bradley Braves are going to be in San Francisco November the 15th to take on the Dons. And this is a grade A chef's kiss home and home series. Bradley played San Francisco at home last year. They're returning the favor, going back out west this year. The Dons were 25-10 last season. KenPom number at 66. This year, their Bart Torvik projection comes in at 65. And you play a 65 team on the road, that is a quad one game. So that is a huge opportunity for Bradley to go pick up a big road win against San Francisco and bolster that resume. Belmont will renew the battle on the Boulevard, Battle of the Boulevard, rather, in Nashville at home on, let's see, that is November the 19th at the Curb Center. They will host Lipscomb. Look, last year, Lipscomb was a top 90 team, the 89th officially in the KenPom. They were an NCAA tournament team, went 25-10. They've had a coaching change. Lenny Acuff has gone on to Samford. Kevin Carroll has taken over. And look, it's a new coach, it's a new team, and it's a whole lot of I don't knows with that situation. Bart Torvik has them projected at 229, which is right in that sweet spot of this is not a game that helps you no matter what. But this is also a game for Belmont that you're not playing. These two schools are a stone's throw apart from one another. It is the best crowd they play in front of all year, whether it's at Lipscomb, whether it is at the Curb Center. It is an awesome environment for a Belmont school that, we've been down there certainly over the years, and sometimes, depending on time of the year or maybe the night or whatever, it's not always a packed house. When Lipscomb comes in, it is a packed house, and it is an awesome environment. So that game, Bruin fans can mark their calendars November the 19th. We still have international basketball going on that folks, at the very least in Murray, Kentucky, are paying attention to, as Roman Damon, who is playing with France at the FIBA U20 Eurobasket Championships, used to be the European Championships, and they've now combined that down into the Eurobasket. He is having himself a time, as Damon, number 77 there for France, had a game-high 19 points yesterday, a game-high 8 rebounds, and led France to a 72-70 win over Greece, who is the host team in this tournament. 6'9" forward, 5 games in the tournament so far in the Eurobasket, 12.6 points, 6.8 rebounds, 4 assists a game. He has played really well. Has not shot it necessarily well. He's 5 for 28 from 3. He is 15 for 28 from 2. So, at 6'9", I spent some time, a couple minutes at practice yesterday down at Murray State. Everybody was shooting threes. So Ryan Miller is going to want him to shoot some threes, certainly going to want to get him above 18%. But he is a high motor guy, high talent guy, and he has played really, really well for France so far in the Eurobasket. The semifinals are tomorrow. The championship and or consolation game, and the consolation game are on Sunday. So his time will be done, and then he's got to go through the visa process. And Coach Miller said he expects him on to be there by the 27th. Team leaves for the Bahamas right around August the 1st, when they will go play their exhibition tour down there. Lachlan Crate, who's coming in from New Zealand, he's expected to be in town this weekend. And once Crate and Damon show up, the full roster of the Racers is finally in Murray and ready to go. But Damon having a heck of a showing, and this, as we've talked about, he's getting some NBA draft buzz in 2026. 19 years old, out of France, 6'9" wing, and seen some early 2026 mock drafts that have him going somewhere in the second round. So we will see how things progress for him once he comes to the States and is able to play for the Racers. An old friend alert, and again, Ryan Miller came from Creighton, and so I guess this is the natural segue. Liam McChesney, the former Illinois State Redbird, is signed with Creighton. And he played for Illinois State for 2 seasons from 2020, the 2021 and the 2022 season there with Illinois State. I think the part about this story that sort of grabbed my attention is that Liam McChesney may soon need to be referred to as Dr. McChesney, as he is getting ready for year number 7 of college. And he has 2 years of eligibility remaining. So if he chooses, there will be an 8th year of college. Now, it's been a little bit of a starstruck situation for him. He is from Canada, played his freshman season at Utah State. And by played, I mean he was just a straight redshirt out at Utah State in the 2019-20 season. The COVID year of 2020-21, he played 5 games with Utah State before he had a season-ending knee injury. But you throw that year out because it's the COVID year. Went to Illinois State for 2 years. Those are the 2 years that actually count against his eligibility. Transferred out of Illinois State at the end of the 23 season and went to High Point. And he spent 2 years at High Point and never played 1 second due to what were described as medical issues and / injuries as well. So he committed to Creighton back in late May. And I guess they had to go through all the appeals process with the NCAA. And yesterday finally signed and has been cleared. Alan Huss, who had been the High Point head coach, has joined the staff thanks to Ryan Miller going to Murray State. He comes over to Creighton, and he is the coach in waiting at Creighton. But certainly the relationship there was helpful to get McChesney to Creighton. But this will be his 7th. He is a 7th-year junior this year, and he will be a 8th-year senior next year if he still stays with Creighton. Obviously, he is a graduate student and beyond at this point, but I was just sometimes, again, you get a red shirt in there, you get the COVID year thrown in there, and he has had horrific injury luck as well, and whatever medical issues he may have gone through. But we thought the COVID stuff and those eligibilities had sort of cycled their way out, but Mr. McChesney getting ready for year 7, our old friend from Illinois State, coming up this season in Creighton. All right, time now for our guest. She is Kelly Bond White. She is the head coach at Southern Illinois, getting ready for year number 4 with the Salukis. And we will talk about, last year was just a nightmarish year. The league was very, very, very good. You say top heavy, but it was really the top 7 when you include UIC. There was that point during the year last year, like, man, the top 6, the bottom 6. UIC elevated themselves out of that bottom 6 into the top 7, and the bottom 5 were it was kind of the Hunger Games amongst themselves, just trying to grab wins where they could. And Southern Illinois just so injury riddled last year that it was just an uphill battle for them all season. They did have, and we'll talk, Gift Uchenna, who was the number 2 rebounder in the country. I think the number was 21 double-doubles last season. I mean, she was the lone true shining bright spot on this program last year. But she went into the portal at the end of the year, went on to Wisconsin, and now it's, again, folks are healthy. But they've got some pieces coming back, but it is now a reset there in Carbondale for Coach Kelly Bond White as they get ready for year number 4 of her tenure with the Salukis. So this is our conversation. Got a chance to talk with her Wednesday around lunchtime, and this is our conversation with Kelly Bond White. Kelly Bond White, it is summer, it's camp season, it's workout season. Everybody's 0-0, so optimism high certainly now. But how have workouts been going for you guys since you've been back in the gym?
You know what? It's been good. This is the first year where we've really had the real nucleus of our team here. We had a lot. We were internationally heavy last year, and those kids didn't get here till almost August. So having the group back, I just told them as we walked off the floor about 10 minutes ago how much further along we are, not just in terms of the X's and O's, but the chemistry of it. With the kids being here all summer. So workouts have been good. Classes have been good. I think all my kids are online right now. So we've been doing summer workouts. So Jeff, by noon, they're done. They're done with their studies. They're done with basketball. So they have a chance to really feel like, it's not the grind of fall just yet, but enjoy their summer while still putting in some time.
Those sound like smart college kids. I mean, back in my day, you got done with class at noon and you had the rest of the afternoon free. That was a good day. So
Yeah, for sure.
Good on them. What was the focus for you and the staff going into the portal this year, trying to fill up some vacancies for this year?
The biggest thing was IQ. We had a lot of skilled youngsters. The thing that I didn't think about last year in dealing with a Valley that probably had one of your most decorated graduating classes, and that we were playing against 5th and 6th year seniors. And here I am with these 18-year-olds, on the floor. So for us, was experience. And that was somebody getting in India Green that had been at Missouri State and knew the Valley coming in. We could never block her out. So I was thinking, hey, you know what? Other folks might have that problem too. But really, Jeff, is getting my injured kids back. Janiyah, Karis Allen coming over from Western Kentucky that didn't get a chance to play at all last year. Those kids have had the experience. They've gone through a year of having to be on the sidelines. So even though we made some moves in the portal, we went junior college. We just got an international that just committed and got signed yesterday. So we got some more help in the paint. But just having those kids here and experience, the short answer was that's what we look for in the portal, was some people that had been through the wards already.
Last year, I know a struggle from 500 different angles,
Yes.
going 4-26. Just, you said it in a league that was really it wasn't just top heavy; it was heavy for more than half the league. Every night was just a fight, and when you're basically, the proverbial taking a knife to a gunfight, it was hard with so few kids on the bench on any given night. I'm going to imagine in your career, playing career, coaching career, there's not a lot of 4-win seasons on the resume at any point. How did you just handle that day after day, knowing we have to keep trying to build here, even though we got one arm tied behind our back in some ways?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you something. When you talk about faith, sometimes you talk about it and you don't think about it because you get tests, you get adversity. But I'd be remiss to say I had ever experienced anything like that before. And so for me, I never worried about myself. Every day I thought about, how do I not lose my kids? How do I not let these losses get inside of them? How do I let them not let the lack of support and them feeling like they're letting a community down? So I took that opportunity to build my young ladies. And I think you see all of those kids had a chance to go into the portal and to go other places. I think those kids stayed because that's where we put it. Every talk, every lecture, it was this is where we are. There's no change in that. And really, Jeff, up until that last game of the season where it just really, it weighed on my kids and I saw them break. I pulled a couple of my starters because it was just all of it, the entirety, it hit them. And so that's what we talked about from every moment of the way, was what our faith truly meant. And yes, the looks, the stares, the negative energy, you couldn't let that get inside of you. All we could do was get back to work and not make excuses. Like, hey, these kids have been hurt all year. That's not all we can do, is get better now. And so the gym is a lot louder, right now, because they chose to stay and they don't want to go back there. And so that's why we're working and building where we are, because we're not going to have a repeat of that. But to tell you it wasn't a challenge, I think throughout my whole career, I probably have never lost that many games. I know why I was brought here. And so the other part of it was, even though I hadn't lost that many, everywhere I've been, we've built. And so I had to recognize that this is a new landscape. Everybody's learning how to navigate this landscape. And the teams that dominated our conference, they didn't just build those teams overnight. Those were kids that were committed to staying. So you have to find a different way because, we might not have the dollars that other people have to keep, teams in place, but we're going to find kids that are tough. And I still think it can be done.
Did you have anybody just personally in your professional sphere that you just kind of leaned on in that and sort of like, not be like, hey, I know you've lost a lot of games, but just sort of like, man, to your point, trying to hold everything together and hold these young ladies together where it doesn't just come splintering apart at some point.
One of my high school teammates was Dennis Gates over at Missouri. Okay. And they had lost I don't even know if they had won a conference game the year before, came back the next year and it won 10. Gary Blair has always been, a mentor to me, Teresa Grintz. my coach, and then TJ McConnell's aunt, my point guard coach, Kathy McConnell, that was coached at Penn State and everything. They just reminded me, of who I was. I think the culminating thing, they called me during season to come speak at the Final Four, and I was like, y'all want me? Did y'all not see, what we just went through? But I think being in that environment and feeling the young energy of coaches that are trying to, figure things out themselves, I think that's what I went to. But the biggest thing who I called on, Jeff, was God, because I knew, for me to stay and have the energy I needed, that was my lifeline to keep these kids motivated and to keep them built up.
When you guys reconvened, I guess, with this is our new team, 1st of June, whatever it may have been, what was there a very purposeful, specific, we're pushing the reset button here, or was it we're just going to take what we did and kind of build off it and springboard? How'd you?
No, definitely. I thought we needed to, even before our young ladies came back, we had boot camp sessions with our coaches, and we broke down everything from what I want out of every position, what I'm looking for out of my coaches. There was a reset, a rebuild of a little bit of everything. And I stayed true to myself, but I also reached out to folks that I really respected in this game, that I've competed against, that I've seen go through that. You even mentioned Rochelle, who, completely changed from her first year in the Valley to what she's doing now. She made a complete reset, offensively as well. And that was something that we looked at, where I had to learn to play to these kids' strengths more and get them more into some read and react situations to open up the floor a little bit better, to get to their strengths. So, yeah, it was. In every phase of the game, we broke it down in every way possible, like from a written, from a diagram, from a video, because they all learn differently. But I think the greatest challenge was with my staff. And we looked in the mirror first at ourselves and said, hey, how do we have to teach differently? We went on to DISC and doing profile indexes of all our kids so we can know how each other learn, differently, in buttons we have to, because that's the biggest thing, was unlocking some of our young ladies that you could see out there. They were just slowed down because they're thinking and they're scared to make a mistake. And we had to acknowledge that and do some things a little bit differently.
You mentioned the Final Four. You got a chance to speak at the coaches convention there. Just how did that come about, and what'd you talk about, and how was the experience?
Yeah, so just some of the WBCA folks that I've known for a long time. I used to love doing it. I did it for about 3-4 years in a row when I was younger. And then I always felt like, no, it's the next generation's time, to get that. And I think the biggest thing was I had about 15 or 20 of my players in the front row, all that were coaching, now men and women, practice players. That meant a lot to me. We talked about secondary break situations off of free throw actions. And then we also talked about press attacks, and I utilized the 4 teams that were there that I've competed against, all those coaches. I knew what Texas was going to run, pressing situations, so we just kind of put them in certain situations, and the crowd loved that. That was probably the biggest reaction, was follow through, was them asking me, like, how do you attack this off of a press? What if this happens off of what you show? But the greatest energy was working with those kids that were on the floor already, and then meeting so many dynamic young coaches in the game, and just seeing some folks that, helped me grow when I was younger. So I had missed it. I hadn't been going through it because recruiting's nonstop, and we've talked about maybe changing dates and stuff. But I would advise all folks, just the energy and the refreshness that came from that, of just being around people in your profession that are wide-eyed and still loving the game.
Basketball is an interesting profession from a standpoint of, you guys are obviously individual staffs across the country, want to just beat each other's brains in, no question asked. But you get into situations like that, it's still a very collaborative business, isn't it? Where you guys learn from each other, and hey, I've got this idea, that idea, and then situations like that, to your point of being able to give back to the next generation too.
Oh, for sure. And I think I learned that being in the South for so long and going. I remember Larry Brown. It was Larry Brown, Coach K, Deans. It was all these guys, right? And I was with Coach Blair and Vic Schaefer, and these guys are on napkins drawing up plays and saying, hey, when you hit me with that, you didn't know I was going to add this in. And they're literally drawing stuff. And I spoke on that at a symposium one time. When I was coming up, Karen Aston was at the University of Texas, and she was one of the most dominant assistant coaches, in the game. And they had printed this article about how she got Texas in the position that they were in. And I cut that article out and put it on my desk. And I said, but in the women's game, we don't share as much, as those guys do. And I always remember that situation. So when I'm in situations at the Final Four, and I push people to talk about basketball, my questions are basketball related, not just recruiting or the state of the game. I want to see what I can steal from them, because none of us are reinventing the wheel, so we still got to go out there and guard each other. And I was sitting there with Coach at Bradley when I was talking. She's just writing her notes down and everything. If we're not scouting each other, I'm like, Coach used to pass out his playbook, and it didn't matter. You still got to try to guard me with it. So I just think of it as growing the game. And as much as I can steal from the next person, hopefully I can give something to them as well.
Recruiting kids is one thing. Certainly in this era we live in now, retaining is a whole other ball of wax, and sometimes just an impossibility. You had an unbelievably talented young lady, Gift Uchenna, last year, second in the country and rebounding and 21 double-doubles and all that. She ends up leaving, going to the Big Ten. As I know, I'm sure in your soul somewhere, it's disappointing that you don't get another year with her, but is there at least some sort of affirmation to you and your staff that our ability to go find kids and find somebody with that talent, that it's like, okay, we're doing this right, and now we just got to go do it again.
Yeah, and I think the year before that, I lost Lania Randall to the SEC. I lost Jaden Mason to the Big East, and all those kids, elevated. And with Gift sat in my office crying, not wanting to leave. But having a chance to better your life, there's no way in the world I could have come up with that money that she was being offered. And when I recruit, I tell them that. I'm not going to hold you back, because of University X, as much as I love this community and the people around, that's the business of it. All of us want to elevate. So, Jeff, I recruit that way. I don't go in and say, I want to coach you 4 years. I want you on my Hall of Fame wall out there. But I also know, besides moving stuff around, there's not a lot of NIL money or rev share money floating around for SIU, women's basketball. So I'm transparent and on that, tell them that as well. But if they come in and compete in one of the best mid-major conferences, if not the best mid-major conference in the country, they're going to get the exposure, and people are watching. People are watching them, because we develop our kids, and that's going to allow me, knock on wood, I got Gift because of what Lania did. And I'm hoping one of these that I'm bringing in this year is going to do the same thing. But I know I have a kid on my roster that's going to be able to elevate. And hopefully there's somebody out there that loves Southern Illinois that's going to say, you know what, well, let's invest in SIU women's basketball and help keep that roster together.
In this time, and maybe this is just searching for silver linings of like, there's a lot of great talent in Southern Illinois. And it's like, hey, maybe we can get some kids that you don't want to call the hometown discount, but maybe they want to play close to family and friends. And you got a couple kids on the roster, Elena Krause, who maybe got out of town and went to Oral Roberts for a year up from up the street, Oakville. She comes in. Janiyah Thompson was at SIU, went to Wichita. She's back. How important is it to sort of build essentially a wall around Southern Illinois and be like, man, if you're good, we want to do everything we can to keep you?
Well, I tell you what, we had identified Elena the first time through, but we had Kiera Love that had an opportunity to come back, and we didn't know what her fifth year. She was in an accelerated nursing program. She just graduated. She has her RN in less than a year, but Q had a chance to come back. And so I couldn't offer Elena just yet. We wanted her. But by the time we were like, okay, Q can't do it, and I made that phone call, she had committed, I think, 2 days, before that. But having that young lady have a chance to, she probably could have gone with her coach to Arkansas, or you tried to desperately keep her. But that was a young lady that wanted to get back to Southern Illinois, and had some other offers in the Valley that I learned of, that people offered her money in conference. But she wanted to make a commitment. She had known our staff, and she wanted to come back. You mentioned Janiyah coming back up the road. Karis Allen is from Sykeston, still in this area. My Southern Illinois kids are just 27, 28. Hey, right around here is going to be difficult, and we're going to have to bust our butt to keep some of those kids here, because they're not secrets anymore. I just wish I could fast forward them and bring them in early around here. But the good thing is they're right around where Elena's from. They have some connections around here. I get to be in the gym because my daughter is on a local AAU team as well. So just building some of those connections with these young ladies. it's always imperative to recruit home first, but home has to be able to come in here and complete, not just come home to come home or be here, but you got to be able to come in and elevate the level. And that's what, when you look through the Valley and you say, okay, let me look at other rosters. Are there a lot of Southern Illinois? There was one, and she was at Missouri State, I mean, at Murray State, and helped them, their MVP. That just, I was a year late, getting here. But if they're Caitlin Young's around here, we want to keep them home. If they're Shannon McDowell's, that just left, Illinois State, that was right up the road in St. Louis. We know what we're competing against, A-10 schools and some other Valley schools for those kids, but we want to keep home first.
Before I let you go, it's a fun time of year in terms of team building and new, all kinds of some. I see bowling, I see axe throwing, I see this, that, the other. What are you guys doing this summer to get to know each other better?
All of it. Well, first, I'm a cook, so they have nailed me down. I'm headed out to Chicago to the Nike Tournament of Champions, but they have nailed me down for a seafood boil at my house. So they'll jump in the pool, and Kayla Cooper, whenever she can get food, she's gonna get it. But that was the biggest thing. But we've been out on the lake fishing. We've done, like you said, we've done all that kind of stuff, bowling, all of it. But this group does a really good job amongst themselves, too, of taking care of themselves. So summertime has been good, but it's been really good for them to build chemistry. And we've done a lot of bonding little activities that they have led. So hopefully that translates.
There is Kelly Bond White, and glad she was able to pop on with us there on Wednesday. And again, Slukey's a big loss in Gift Uchenna. But they are reloading and ready to roll, and we'll look forward to seeing how they do in this upcoming season. All right, a couple more headlines before we get out of here on this Friday. On the men's side of things, the international flavor in this league this year, it is, to call it a trend probably is understating it a little bit. Of the programs that have gone out overseas and found kids, as Matthew Graves at Indiana State has signed Sivert Nordheim, a 6'6" guard out of Norway. He's played in the top professional league in Norway the last several years, played for Norway's national team as well. In 2024, played for Norway in the FIBA U18 Eurobasket Championships, where he averaged 15.5 points, 6.5 rebounds a game. So he has been prolific in that environment. We will see how that will translate to Terre Haute, one of 9 newcomers and one of multiple international newcomers for Matthew Graves this year at Indiana State. But a mid to late July signing to be able to go add another player there in Sivert Nordheim. All right. And lastly, before we get out of here today, this is a pretty cool story that ultimately doesn't have a lot to do with the Missouri Valley, maybe nothing to do with the Missouri Valley, but it's one of the great college basketball stories from the last couple of years. And really one of the more heartbreaking stories in the last year. As you may recall, last fall, former Murray State assistant coach, but at the time head coach at South Florida, Amir Abdur-Rahim, passed away and died tragically during a medical procedure. And he was one of the absolute young, and I say young, early mid-40s, young rising stars in this game. And prior to his stop at South Florida, he'd been the head coach at Kennesaw State for 4 seasons and had done an unbelievable job there. Well, his last 2 bosses and the 2 schools he worked for, Kennesaw State and South Florida, have put together the Love Wins Classic. And this is awesome. And it's going to be the details of it from a long-term standpoint. I don't know how this is going to go. All I know is that in year 1, South Florida is going to Kennesaw State and to go play in their small mid-major gym. And it would have been packed no matter who was coming in as part of this Love Wins Classic. But the fact that it's South Florida it is an awesome gesture by these 2 schools to continue to promote and just pay tribute to the legacy of Amir Abdur-Rahim. Again, he was an assistant coach at Murray State, started as a grad assistant, became an assistant coach under Billy Kennedy back 2006 to 2011. Had some stops along the way. He was at College of Charleston. He was at Georgia Tech. He was at Georgia, helped recruit Anthony Edwards to Georgia. Was at Texas A&M for a few years again with Kennedy. One of my favorite things that I learned talking to Amir was that, he had signed Anthony Edwards at Georgia. And like 2 days later, he had an opportunity to become a head coach for the first time up the road at Kennesaw State. And he went to Anthony Edwards and said, "This is up to you. If you want me to stay, I brought you here. I recruited you. I got you to sign here. If you want me to stay, I will stay." And Anthony Edwards, to his credit, was like, "Buddy, you got to go." And so Amir went. And it was such a remarkable building job. And I think showed as much as anything that this is also in some ways a bygone era, even though it was literally 6 years ago when he started. He went 1-28 in his first season, the 2019-20 season. Won one game, and then won 5 games, and then he won 13 games. And then finally in the 22-23 season, he leads Kennesaw to 26-9 record. They win a regular season championship. They win a conference tournament championship, go to the NCAA tournament for the first time, and a star was born on the stage. And he got to go to South Florida, coach for a year, led them to an American Athletic Conference championship for the first time, wins 25 games. And you're like, man, the sky is the absolute limit for Amir. And then unfortunately passed away last fall. But this is really just, again, an awesome gesture by both Kennesaw State and South Florida. And not a lot to do with the Valley. His time at Murray State was pre-Valley, but still means a lot to the people in Murray, Kentucky. And just, again, really neat gesture by both of those schools. And hopefully, how this rolls forward moving on, don't know. I'm assuming they will go back to South Florida next year and have a return game. And, don't know if this will become some sort of MTE in its own way. I don't know. But at least for one day coming up there, that's November 16th, I believe it is, there in Kennesaw. It'll be an awesome day to celebrate Amir Abdur-Rahim. All right, that does it for today's edition of Morning in the Valley. Again, programming note, we will be off next week until Friday. We have a little family vacation that needs to take priority over this fine program, but we will be back next Friday. Next couple of weeks, we're going to have Drew Steffi, sophomore guard from Southern Illinois. We're going to have Brian Wardle, the Bradley head coach. We're going to have Tanya Warren, women's head coach at Northern Iowa as well. So plenty of guests lined up here for the coming weeks as we are T-minus 108 days from starting the 2025-26 season. If you haven't done so, please just help us out if you can. Spend 2 seconds, go to YouTube, search Morning in the Valley, subscribe to the show, and that will really help us out as we continue to grow this show. And we couldn't do it without you. And I thank you for being with us today. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful week. We will be back next Friday right here on Morning in the Valley.